Okay, we can begin. Could I say welcome, welcome, welcome. On behalf of the congregation, it is my great honor to welcome our distinguished guests, elected officials, community leaders, friends, and especially our sisters as we gather to celebrate a remarkable milestone, the 375th anniversary of the founding of the Sisters of St. Joseph in Le Puy, France. We are also proud to recognize more than 170 years of the Sisters' dedicated service to the Rochester community. Today's recognition is not only a celebration of our history, but also of the countless individuals, organizations, and communities who have journeyed with us and helped bring our mission to life. We are deeply honored by this recognition and grateful for the opportunity to reflect on the blessings, the relationships which are so important to us, and the shared commitment to service that have shaped our ministry over all these years. It is now my pleasure to welcome Sister Beth LaValle, who organized today's recognition ceremony, to formally introduce our honored guests. Beth?
First of all, the process. I'll be introducing everybody at once, including Joe. I'll be introducing everyone at once, including Joe Morelli, who could not come, nor could his wife come, and I'll still say a bit about him. And then each one will get up and do the proclamation, give it to Mary Lou, and Mary Lou will read Joe Morelli's proclamation for us. In fact, it's kind of funny how this all started. We had a human rights event with proclamations, and everything was set with the city, the county, and Bill Maley from Brighton. And Joe Morelli's proclamation came here for the Sisters of St. Joseph, not human rights. And that's where we got the idea of, if Joe was here, I might not say that, but I'm saying it because he's not here. So as Mary Lou said, as we all know, those of us who have lived with some of the people before us, that we're going to be hearing facts probably, and we know that there's stories of women who lived very giving, compassionate lives and always tried to welcome into circles of compassion the people that they served. So we know there's a lot more behind this. And I'm going to talk about the next proclamations at the end. Anyway, we might not all be around, but anyway. So I know pretty much everybody here. Michael I don't, but Malik I do. So you'll see how I've pitched how I'm introducing them, and I'm doing it in the light of their care and their values for the common good that I know about. So Adam, all of a sudden he's at the Mother House with these people for Sister Mariella's funeral. She's a Notre Dame sister who lived with us and died with us. She was a delight. So I said, what are you doing here? So this was the story. Was this your first election? Oh, yeah. Okay. So the story was that he is disheartened at what seemed to be the data on what was happening. And the last door he knocked on was Sister Mariella. And we know Sister Mariella, this delighted, spirited sister. And I guess he expressed his being disheartened. And Sister Mariella, as she would do, "You're going to win, and I'm going to pray for you." So fortunately, the prayers came through, and Adam was elected. And I did not know until the funeral that he had continued to visit her in gratitude to her. So in addition to that, I was at the press conference where Adam, I think you more or less orchestrated this for the entire county about the SNAP benefits being denied. And he was part of calling all the county officials and all the rest of us, the food people and all kinds of people, to come on board to make sure we got the benefit as much as we could of the SNAP benefits, the people with the SNAP benefits. I also know he stands for a whole lot of other values and things and has a great family and so on and so forth, both as a person and as a leader. However, what we have, this must not be taken for granted. We have this marvelous collaborative leadership between our mayor and our county executive. And this has to do with all kinds of developments, all kinds of uses of money, all kinds of care for the community. And we cannot take it for granted. And these times, as we know, call for that kind of collaboration and that kind of care and compassion for the wider community, not just for political gain. So let us be very grateful. And when they were first introduced this way, now I've seen it in operation, they're named the Moore and Ryan of today. You remember that relationship? Yeah, long time since we had that. Now, I do not know Deputy Mayor Michael Burns that well. We just met formally. I've Googled him and know about some of his leadership, but I'm really going to talk about Malik Evans. So I live in a city neighborhood, and it is very clear to me that this mayor and his staff want to improve neighborhoods, they want to build affordable housing, and they want decent community policing. So we can all be very, very grateful for that. Malik is a compassionate man, and I've seen him many times as a public figure who represents compassion and care and strength and truth. Now, a history that probably none of you knows, is anybody still alive? I lived at St. Bridget's, and Father Bob Worth put us out because he wanted to give the convent to Malik's father, Minister Lorenz Evans. So we were there 2 years, and lots happened while we were there 2 years, but we got put out by Malik's father. And, and I've often heard Malik, he'll talk about his dual backgrounds, and one is as a banker, and then as learning from the feet of his father and imbibing and living the values his father passed on to him. All right, now the first person I called with a very enthusiastic response was Bill Smith, our Pittsford town supervisor. So this is my experience, and you might experience it also. I called the general number. Hi, Bill Smith. I'm like, whoever heard of it? So we conversed and we got straight what was happening, and we've had back and forth in terms of all that. But the beauty of an executive, a leader like that, answering the phone, having a back and forth, it wasn't just he dominated, right? Back and forth, were you calling for advocacy, you're calling for an appointment, you're calling for what? You have an idea? You know, there you were, and it just kept happening. Finally, I talked to a staff person. You do have staff, right? Do it all your own. And as we all know, we have a very strong relationship, a long-term relationship with the town of Pittsford. And we weren't alive when Nazareth College, we got the land here and Nazareth College came. But during my term, the town was very helpful with a very minor thing, changing our housing on East Avenue. And then I'm very sure those in leadership at the time know there was a lot of interaction with the town when we built the new mother house and then when the friendly home happened. And we've come up with some marvelous things on environment and all kinds of things. So we're very grateful to you for that collaborative effort with us. And again, we're supposed to be about relationships with Sisters of St. Joseph, and all of you are about relationships, so we're very grateful. So the word Mary Beth and Joe Morelli are from my parish. And Mary Beth was going to give the proclamation, and I was going to announce, which I'm still announcing, that her family has a decades-long history with Sisters of St. Joseph, as does Joe, but Mary Beth's is longer. So I was wanting to introduce her because she's a gem, but there was a need in her family, which is a priority for both of them. So if you come to our Peace of Christ church, you'll see them periodically, and if they all come for a funeral, half the church is filled, you know, or a wedding or baptism, they're all there. Anyway, I want to say a few things about Joe. In fact, it was Sister Rosemary told me years ago, you got to meet this Joe Morelli. I can still remember. And I was at an interfaith thing, and here was this guy in a circle, you know, out in the, you know, with the garden and stuff. So I go out, and the thing I remembered about him is he had holes in his shoes. I'm sure he was personable and everything, but he had holes in his shoes. So anyway, and then. Anyways, and Joe lived right near St. Ambrose Convent, so he'd go, you know, run by during his running. Anyway, Joe has integrity, and he too was at the conference with Adam, strongly speaking about the values of vulnerable people in our community. At that time, SNAP benefits. There's a lot more that's happened in terms of that. Now, Joe also cites his values coming from his family, his mom and dad, Julie and Gil. And he says, I was taught to be kind, and I will be kind publicly. Now, I don't know. I called them because I didn't know why they didn't say this during the campaign. I knew this, but you wouldn't catch it unless you knew it. So I said, why didn't you talk more about Joe has been given two major efforts on a national level. One is working with lawyers to protect the voting. However they're doing it, I know not, but there's a whole cadre of lawyers he's working with to protect voting. And his job is to issue H.R. 1 as the first bill when, we say, or if, again, be non-political, when the Democrats get in, his H.R. 1 is the first bill on the docket. And that is to restore morality and order, I'm saying it kindly, but anyway, morality and order to our community. So we don't know that locally necessarily, but on a national level, he was chosen for that. So anyway, we are grateful for your personal gifts, I'm sure yours, but Malik and Joe, and your servant leadership. We are so blessed in this community with who our officials are. So I just want to say that a biblical proclamation, unlike the political proclamation, speaks of the truth of God in the world. We Sisters of St. Joseph of Rochester and our circles of Joseph aim to be good in the world today, of value in the world today, and follow the work of the Spirit among and between us and our neighbors. We are grateful that we can kind of say today, we're working on the circles of Joseph, but today you're part of our circles of Joseph, that you bring civic truth and integrity to the wider communities you serve. And what I'm saying about the future proclamations, sisters, is that future proclamations will probably be humbler and quieter and simpler as we aim, as we're doing this weekend, to say what are we called to and who are we called to be. But we will render that service in communion with others, our servants, and in partnerships with all others who share our values and care for the common good. So I'm almost crying, as you know, cheer up with this stuff. We have two gifts for you. You have them in your hand there. I don't know if all the sisters have seen this gift, but this is a picture of the kitchen. So the early sisters lived in that kitchen, and it's still there. You go visit. It's very tiny. So we have that to give all of you. We're going to do that. And then we have a mug to give you with our name on it. You can do what as you wish. Remember us every time you have a sip of coffee. So we want to say we are very grateful to be part of the Greater Rochester story with all of you, and we're very grateful you're here today, and we welcome your words to us. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Sister Beth, and it is wonderful to be with you. Thanks for the invitation. And I love those stories that you're telling. But I will pay it right back to you. When we first met, it was with our dear friend, Congresswoman Slaughter, who I think taught us. I actually worked for the Congresswoman for a few months. My first job in college, I was an intern for Congresswoman Slaughter, and then worked for our now Congressman Joe Morelli. And Sister Beth was always there, fighting the good fight and really holding us accountable, Louise accountable, even though she's your good friend, to make sure that we were doing our civic duty and doing it in service to our community. So thank you, Sister Beth, and for sharing those stories. And I do want to just say, so I have a proclamation that I'd like to share because, you know, coming together for this wonderful historic milestone is really a significant thing. 375 years. There's not a lot of things we can come together for to celebrate 375 years. But what's really interesting, though, is the migration to Rochester in 1854. And so since 1854, the Sisters of St. Joseph has really consistently worked to enrich our civic, our spiritual, and cultural life. And so we are really lucky on that fateful day 170 years ago that they chose to lay down their roots here in Monroe County, eventually finding a permanent space here in the town of Pittsford. And though they've grown and changed to meet the people of our county, and you really have been committed to education, healthcare, social justice, compassionate service, serving as teachers, pastoral ministers, healthcare workers, social workers, and so much more. But the impact that each of you have and have had in whatever role that was in our community and however you choose to participate in civic life here, the example that you're setting for the rest of us is very powerful. And Sister Beth touched on the story I was going to tell today about Sister Mariella. And I hope you all know, or many of you remember dearly, Sister Mariella, but that was correct, that story. So we had actually done some polling in my first campaign, and I was supposed to lose that campaign by about 10 points, 10, 15 points. And we worked really, really hard. And so it was devastating to get that back about maybe a week or two before Election Day. So we're out knocking on doors, because I still plowed right through. And I really wanted on Election Day for the last experience that I had to be somebody telling me they're voting for me, so I can at least end that political career, because I thought my political career was over that day. So I really didn't want it to be over and So I'm out with my campaign manager, we're knocking on doors, and I come across Sister Mariella. And I said, my name's Adam Bello, I'm running for town supervisor. I know who you are, dear. And she grabbed my hands. And so we were talking for a little bit, and we talked for a lot of it. And then she said, I voted for you today. And I said, you did? And she said, yeah. And she talked a little bit about, my family, who she met through mailers and all that stuff. And then she prayed for me. And I said to her, Sister Mary, she said, I wish you luck today. And I said, I need it. And I told her, I don't think this is going to work out. I said, but I do appreciate your vote. And she chastised me, first of all, for saying it wasn't going to work out. She told me God has a plan, and that whatever happens today was what was meant to happen. But she told me I was going to win, and that I was going to make a difference in the community, and she told me about all these great things I was going to do. So by the end of the conversation, I turned around. My campaign manager was crying. I started crying. Mariella was crying. And I said, that's it, I'm going to Wegmans, I'm done knocking on doors. So I stopped and went to Wegmans, stopped and went home, and I was in my pajamas when the election results came in, because I was still down, and sure enough I won. And so after that, I went back to visit Sister Mariella, who was not surprised at all that I won. And ever since then, on every election day, every primary day, whether it was my election or somebody else's, I still went to visit and sit with Sister Mariella. I had a chance to bring my wife to meet her. She even gave me a gift once. She gave me an electric can opener as a gift once. And I just thought that was like the funniest thing. But in any event, I still visit her every election day to this day. We go to the cemetery with flowers, with purple flowers, and we find her gravestone and say prayers, and we hang out with her every election day. But here's the impact. So she gave me hope and did inspire like a young, budding. I can call myself a politician, but I wanted to be a public servant, and I wanted to serve my community in a certain way. And she prayed for me, she gave me hope, she gave me inspiration. She had all my clippings. Every time I visited her, she had newspaper clippings. But she made me understand, I think, a little bit about the value of the work that I was doing, the impact that it was having on the community, and gave me a completely different perspective on the work that we were doing and the importance of it. And it's something that I'll always treasure and value, and I will always visit her every year on Election Day. But I think that story can be told multiple times on all of you. So even on small interactions that you have with people in the community and wherever it is you may have worked or volunteered, you never know what small thing you might say to uplift someone, a prayer that you might offer to someone that might change the trajectory of their life or how they see things around them, but then also how then they pay it forward as well. And you may not ever see that come back to you, and I think it's important, though, that we do pay back and tell people the impact that they've had, but you have had a remarkable impact. So Sister Mariella changed my life, which I actually think may have changed a lot of other people's lives in our community through my service, and each one of you has a story like that, whether you know it or not. And so I want to say thank you for being that enduring presence and for that enduring service that you continue to provide to our community, because we certainly wouldn't be as well off as we are today without all of you. So I have, because of Sister Mariella, I have the ability, it's one of my favorite things to do as a county executive, I get to proclaim things. So I brought a proclamation that I'd like to read. And actually, we talked a little about the history, so I'm going to read the bottom half of it for you. And it says, whereas the Sisters of St. Joseph have helped to shape institutions that continue to serve residents throughout the region, their legacy can be seen in organizations such as the Nazareth University, St. Anne's Community, St. Joseph's Neighborhood Center, and many others that have touched generations of individuals and families. And whereas throughout their history in Rochester, the Sisters of St. Joseph responded to the changing needs of the community while remaining true to the mission that first brought them here. Their service has reached classrooms, neighborhoods, healthcare settings, and places of refuge for those facing hardship. And whereas today, the Sisters continue their long-standing commitment to building a more just and caring society. Their example has inspired generations of residents to embrace service, strengthen communities, and recognize the dignity and worth of every person. And whereas the Sisters of St. Joseph celebrate their 375th anniversary, Monroe County proudly recognizes their extraordinary legacy and expresses gratitude for more than 170 years of faithful service to the Rochester region and beyond. So now, therefore, I, Adam Bello, the Monroe County Executive, do hereby proclaim that June 26, 2026, will be a day to honor and celebrate the Sisters of St. Joseph, and we call upon all of our residents to join us in celebrating the 375th anniversary. Congratulations.
Good afternoon, everybody. It is so great to be with all of you this afternoon on behalf of the mayor. And fun fact, a good friend of mine is Father Bob Kennedy. And Father Bob, I knew that would get a positive reaction. But I know Father Bob is in the regular rotation of Mass celebrants here at the Mother House, and I think it just brings him great joy every time that he is here with you, just as it does for me. So it's interesting, you know, whenever you come to a place, you think about, what is it that I'm going to say? What's my reflection here? And as I reflected, I thought about my own journey in public service. And I thought about, it always occurs to me that there are two people who I wish were still here with us that could kind of see me doing this because they were so instrumental in me getting to this place. One of them is my maternal grandmother, and the other is a great woman who spent a portion of her ministry as a Sister of St. Joseph, and that was my principal at St. John the Evangelist School in Greece from grades 2 through 8, Sister Marilyn Reeves. And I know that Sister has taken her leave of us, and in fact, her funeral mass was said in this very place. So it's very special for me to be here today on this 170th anniversary of your ministry in Rochester and the 370th of the order. And so as I reflected, I thought about the sisters and what one particular sister meant to me. And I thought about myself as a new kid in school, as a second grader. We had just moved here from Monmouth County, New Jersey. I joined in second grade, and it was Sister Marilyn who always looked out for the new kid, who was always kind of making sure that I was okay, and you know, just wanted me to feel like, you know, she really cared about me. As our principal, she really fostered an environment not only of accountability, but one of care and concern. And I say that, I think the most powerful illustration of that and how she lived out her ministry and instilled those values in us was that it has been 35 years this June since my grade school classmates and I crossed the stage at St. John the Evangelist Church. And Of one thing I'm certain. If there was a classmate who had a need, I am certain even today that we would be able to marshal our class together to make sure that in a matter of hours, if not much more than a day, that we were on the right road to meet that need. And that's because of how Sister made certain that we were focused on care and concern for one another. Sister Marilyn also loved us so much that she felt a need to point out those occasions when we needed to be doing better. And that was no more evident than when she lined all of my male classmates along the stairs of the school building and told us how disappointed she was in us and admonished us that if we kept engaging in the devious acts that we were undertaking, such devious acts as heckling a teacher and maybe hurling a handful of stones from the playground, as good 1980s playgrounds had stones as their surface, and sometimes being just downright disruptive. She admonished us that if we continued along that path, our life was not going to turn out as God intended for that to be. And that really stuck with me, that she loved us enough to make it a point that she didn't like what she was seeing, and she needed to say something about it. Now, if you're paying close attention, I mentioned male classmates. What I did not disclose, and what I will leave to your imagination, is whether or not a future deputy mayor was in that lineup of male classmates. But lastly, Sister made it a point to tell us when she was proud of us, and I can still hear her voice today as clear as day. There was a day during 8th grade, it was the end of the marking period, and many of you will be able to relate to this, that the ritual was there were 2 folding chairs out in the hallway. One was for Sister, and the other was for the student who was going to receive their report card. And so I was absent that day. I just wasn't feeling well. It wasn't because of the grades or any of the things that would be disclosed in that report card, but just, wasn't feeling well. Sister made it a point to leave a voicemail on our answering machine, and I can hear her to this day just saying how proud she was of me. And I will tell you, even as I stand here as deputy mayor, closer to 50 years old than not, I still remember that. That still meant something. And just my entire experience with her really shaped who I am today and how I serve my community, a great call that I'm privileged to have. And so the point of my reflection, much like that of the county executive, is this. As I look out at all of you, I think about how many stories similar to mine, similar to the county executives, how many lives you have all touched throughout the course of your respective ministries, whatever they have been, in our schools, in our hospitals, advocating for our communities, whatever they may be. And so I'm really here to just say thank you for the many lives that you have touched by answering God's call to join the Sisters of St. Joseph. And so as I close in my remarks, something different between a deputy mayor and a county executive is that I have whatever powers the mayor gives me. And so he's empowered me to be here, and so he's also empowered me to offer a brief proclamation. And we do a lot of joint events, the county executive and I, or the mayor and the county executive, and so we try not to be redundant in what we say. And so there are 5 stanzas in this proclamation, and I'm going to read a few, and then we can do a presentation. So, and this is from the office of the mayor of the city of Rochester. Whereas the Sisters of St. Joseph have faithfully served the people of Rochester and its surrounding communities for generations through their enduring commitment to education, healthcare, social justice, and compassionate care. And whereas the Sisters of St. Joseph continue to dedicate themselves to uplifting the poor, advocating for peace and justice, caring for the sick and elderly, and empowering countless individuals throughout the city of Rochester and beyond. And whereas in 2026, the Sisters of St. Joseph celebrate 170 years of service in Rochester, commemorating a remarkable legacy of leadership, compassion, unwavering dedication, and commitment to the common good. Now, therefore, I, Michael T. Burns, on behalf of Malik D. Evans, Mayor of the City of Rochester, New York, do hereby proclaim June 26, 2026, to be a day to honor the 170th anniversary of the Sisters of St. Joseph of Rochester in Rochester, and urge all its citizens to join in celebrating their enduring legacy of service, justice, unity, and care for all.
Adam and Michael, thank you for those wonderful stories. I am so glad I was here to hear what you had to say. Really, it's absolutely wonderful and inspiring as well. And I want to thank Sister Mary Lou, Sister Beth. Thanks to all of you for including me today on what is such a happy occasion. And, I think it really says something that in a year when soon we'll celebrate the 250th anniversary of the founding of the United States, we gather today to celebrate the 375th anniversary of the Sisters of St. Joseph. For nearly 4 centuries, a force for good in the world. In our region, since the first 4 sisters of your order arrived here 170 years ago, for the great city that anchors our region, for our county, for this town of Pittsford, a force for good throughout all 3. The quality of a community, our quality of life, of course, it's never defined by any one thing in particular, but rather by the aggregate influence of all of the very many individual components that comprise it. And from that perspective, we've been so very lucky in Pittsford that so prominent among those components that shape our town has been the Sisters of St. Joseph. For your commitment, your advocacy, your dedication, your widespread undertakings in education, for your persistent quest and mission and drive, always seeking to make us better, to make us kinder, to care for those who need care, even those who may not realize they need care until you came into their lives. And from the time the sisters acquired the property in Pittsford to make this the home of Nazareth College, now Nazareth University, of course, back in 1942, you've brought distinction to our community. You've instilled pride in our residents because you're here with us, as part of us, for what the college has grown to become since you founded and brought it here, for what this wonderful university contributes to quality of life, not just for its students, but for what it offers to so many others in our community as well, in the way of education, the arts, events, and by imparting to Pittsford that special extra something that characterizes a college town. The decades-long relationship among your order, your college, and the town is something we prize and for which we are so grateful to you. How very fitting it is then that your order, named for that saint, husband of Mary, chosen by God to be the guardian and protector of his only Son, our Lord, that you, its members, have served as such fine guardians and protectors of the many you've helped and of so much of what's best in our community. I'm pleased to have with me a proclamation to present to you and to all of you, the Sisters of St. Joseph, on this year anniversary. On behalf of the people of Pittsford, I thank you. I am proud to be a member of a community that includes in it the Sisters of St. Joseph.
And now I have the privilege of reading the congregational recognition presented to the Sisters of St. Joseph by Joe Morelli. It is the tradition of the United States House of Representatives to acknowledge those exemplary organizations whose purposeful service, steadfast commitment, and enduring contributions strengthen our communities and enrich the lives of those they serve. In keeping with this tradition, we take pride in recognizing those organizations whose efforts embody the very best of civic responsibility, faith, and compassionate service. Attending to such concern and in full accord with the long-standing traditions, the members of the U.S. House of Representatives is justly proud to recognize and honor the Sisters of St. Joseph for celebrating the 375th anniversary of the founding of the Sisters of St. Joseph, recognizing centuries of faithful service, compassionate ministry, and unwavering commitment to serving communities around the world and throughout the greater Rochester region. Now, therefore, I, Representative Joseph D. Morelli, do hereby honor the Sisters of St. Joseph of Rochester in celebration of the 375th anniversary of the founding of the Sisters of St. Joseph. I celebrate their contribution to the people of the New York's 25th District and recognize their enduring legacy of faith, education, healthcare, social justice, and service to those most in need, inspiring generations through their mission of unity, reconciliation, and love. So given under my hand and the seal of the U.S. House of Representatives on the 26th day of June, 2026. Joseph D. Morelli, Member of Congress, 25th District of New York State. We are most grateful for your presence here today, the acknowledging of our long history and our desire to serve God without distinction. Please know we are women, we have always been women who are ordinary, who simply desire to the best of our abilities to serve God and the dear neighbor without distinction. And so we hope there's another 375 years. We also put it in God's hands, knowing that we're called to be and live our mission and charism today. So thank you for being here. Thank you for the congregation. On behalf of every one of us, we are most grateful for your attention, care, and love. And know we give it back to you as well. So thank you.